Good evening, friends. I hope you are doing well tonight. We're going to go ahead and get started. And I am recording this, so it will be available on my YouTube channel, as are other classes that we've done in the past. So make sure you're subscribed to that if you want to get a notification when this recording will be uploaded on there. And you are welcome to share it with anybody who it might be beneficial for. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the class tonight. My name is Sarah Jo Poff. I am the one behind Healthy Families for God, which I started, I think, about 15 years ago as a natural health educator and began to go through some programs and learn some more things to help people out. But what I am going to share with you tonight, I want to be honest, really didn't come from any of the naturopathy classes I took or the nutrition classes I took. Honestly, so much of this has been really just a journey for myself, as well as what I've learned from my own clients sharing with me what's working and what's not working. And so what I want to bring to you tonight is just some of that experience that we've seen work and really make a difference, because I have a lot of people who will come to me and say, I want to do this, I want to do this, I've done this, I've done this. And I want to help filter through some of that for you and just give you the information of what you really do need to do in order to achieve that end goal that we have. And so I really want to make sure that I'm not overloading you with information that's like, you need to do this and do this and do this and do this. And just really give you what is just the bare necessity so that you can get good results in your own life. And I'm coming to you tonight. I'm 44 years old. I've had 6 kids that I've birthed and breastfed, and had a lot of stress and trauma and things like that. So a lot of what I'm sharing with you tonight too has just been my own journey in healing my own hormones and recovering my own health as well. So I am saying this as somebody who has very healthy hormones right now. I check them. I, have compared them to how I felt in my 20s when I had hormone issues and things like that. And so I'm really excited to share with you how we can have healthy hormones both before and during the menopause stages and after. So one of the things that we need to recognize in this journey is these symptoms that we as a society say are normal. They are common, but they're not normal. When we call them normal, we just accept them as inevitable, instead of taking them as signs that we can be doing something to fix those so that we can have a healthy later stage of life. So if you have or had these were symptoms or are symptoms that your body is saying there's some hormone work that needs to happen, and we want to pay attention to them. These are not inevitable. These do not necessarily say you have to have these with your hormones. This is not part of being a woman. So, I've had my journey with a few of these, and can tell you right now as a 44-year-old woman that I don't have any of these. So I still have regular cycles. They're quite light, I guess, compared to most people. They're a couple of days long, where there's consistent, somewhat bleeding for a couple of days, and they haven't changed as I've gotten into my 40s. So we'll see how long that lasts. But my hair stays in place. I haven't had any of those issues or anything, but I have had some of these issues, like I said, in the past. So I want to show you what really works for them. But first, we need to look at how we got this way, because there are some things in our environment or our diets or things that need to be switched in order for us to get rid of these. Endocrine disruptors is a big one. And as you probably know, they have become more prevalent in our environment as the years have gone on. And so it becomes a little bit more of a challenge, or maybe a lot more of a challenge, to combat the exposure to those. The one thing we can do, though, is make sure that we don't have those in our home. So that includes products that have the term on their ingredients label as fragrance or perfume. And so this includes a lot of natural products. So you've got to really watch out for those. The research is just abounding in those ingredients and how they affect our endocrine system. They are called xenoestrogens, and they basically trick our hormone receptors in thinking that that's a hormone that we need. And so basically, in a few different ways, they block our body from the hormones that we actually do need to have hormone balance. There's also research that shows that these synthetic chemicals, fragrances, and things like that, and the parabens will be labeled as like methylparaben or propylparaben, those kinds of things with paraben at the end of it. These things have been shown to also increase our insulin and our blood sugar. And so that's also part of the endocrine system, our pancreas, and producing insulin, and it all is connected together. That is also why high glycemic diets, where our blood sugar is on a roller coaster every day, it plays a large role in our hormone health too, because they're all very much connected. And so a lot of people tend to think that that's only an issue for those who have diabetes, but there's a lot of research out there that proves that everyday foods are causing this in everyday people. So people are really extremely surprised to find out when they are starting to monitor their blood sugar that they are having blood sugar spikes every single day. And when they balance those out, a lot of these go away. So we're going to talk more about that. Stress is obviously a big one, as most of you probably already know by now, because stress has a large role in our endocrine system when we are perceiving, whether it's perceived stress or trauma or something that sometimes even stress on our body is like intermittent fasting. Our body will sense that as stress. Sometimes really intense exercise, our body will take as stress. So I don't just mean emotional stress as well, but anything that's a stressor, physiological, psychological, any of those that's a stress on the body has the potential to block our body from getting the hormones it needs for its hormone balance, because it's taking the precursor hormones that make progesterone and estrogen and things like that to make them into stress hormones like cortisol. The sedentary lifestyle is obviously a big factor for this because in order to maintain good, healthy hormones, we need to have good blood sugar. And obviously, active movement is a major essential part of having good, healthy blood sugar. So active movement also helps build muscle, which helps support our DHEA, which is a building block hormone that gives us our body, that helps our body make hormones that we need. So that's a really important part of it as well. And then there are a lot of nutritional deficiencies, some that come every time our blood sugar spikes and it depletes our body of, for instance, magnesium and B vitamins. And some of them are just things that maybe we're born with. Some of us are born with nutritional deficiencies. Sometimes we just have nutritional deficiencies from years of bearing and nursing children. And sometimes we become nutritionally deficient during stress, when our body loses out those nutrients to try to keep us in homeostasis and things like that too. So those are usually a factor for all of us. And it seems like it's a lot, but there are some simple things that we can do to work on that. Before we get into that, I want to talk about the topic of osteoporosis. This includes anything to do with that, and the calcium myth. So a lot of women get into their later years and they just start downing a bunch of calcium in order to prevent osteoporosis. But that doesn't fix anything. And I haven't met anybody who has successfully avoided osteoporosis or those types of things by just taking calcium. And here's why. They actually took the ovaries out of lab rats in order to induce osteoporosis. So in labs, when scientists want to study osteoporosis, they immediately go to performing a surgical procedure to remove the rat's ovaries because they know that this induces osteoporosis, because they know it's a hormone issue. So first and foremost, we need hormone balance in order to prevent osteoporosis, because of the role that these balanced hormones like DHEA and the way that it affects our muscles, and the way that it affects our bone density, and progesterone, the way that it's anti-inflammatory and it prevents the breakdown of bone and muscle tissue and things like that. The first thing in order to prevent osteoporosis is balancing our hormones. Another factor in this is a vitamin D deficiency. Most people are like, well, I'm in the sun, I'm this. And I can count maybe on my hands, and that's it. The number of people who we've seen lab testing show that they have adequate vitamin D to protect them from osteoporosis and all sorts of other things, autoimmune disease and all of those things, without having been intentional about supporting their levels and, and that's just people assuming that they were doing well. Most of the time, that's not the case. We also have to consider the facts of the sugary foods and the way that they break down our bone density. That's a really big factor. Because what's happening is anytime there's these sugary foods or these acidic sodas with the certain acids in them, and I'm not saying like acid foods, I'm saying acidic sodas and things like that, where it's literally has acid in it. Our body would literally die from drinking one soda because of what they put in it. The only reason we don't die is because our body's reaction, in order to maintain homeostasis, to protect us, is to immediately grab a bunch of calcium out of the bones and sometimes out of the teeth in order to balance the acidity of that drink. And so this is happening every time we're drinking something like that, consuming sugar. Our body is trying to protect us, but it's doing so at the cost of our bone density. And then also lack of weight-bearing movement is a big part of that. There's actually even this is well known in the aeronautical industry, where they make sure that people going up in space have a way of putting pressure in the no gravity spaces to put weight-bearing pressure on their bones. Otherwise, they will quickly lose their bone density. So we talked about this on my Facebook page, but we're going to cover it here too, just real quickly. Hot flashes and sleep issues are actually a blood sugar issue. They are not a hormone issue. Why do they show up later in life then? Because we have been having this pending insulin resistance for decades. So we're in our 20s, we're having blood sugar spikes every single time we eat a meal, and we're fine for a while. And slowly over time, this is building up this insulin resistance. And you add on top of the stress and all these other things that are making it harder for our blood sugar to stay stable, for our body to stay sensitive to the insulin it's producing, because it's having to produce more and more and more. And it's finally just becoming desensitized to it, basically. And so this shows up later in life for that reason generally. There's so much research out there. You can look it up. I have a post on my Facebook page too about this. And honestly, since I've started sharing this information on this, I can't even count how many messages and comments I've received from people saying this is absolutely true, that when they cut out the carbs before bedtime, they stopped having sleep issues and hot flashes at night. Or when they started stabilizing their blood sugar, they had, this really changed a lot for them, and things like that. So I'm telling you that because I want you to know that there is a way out of this, and you don't have to say this is just part of these later years of life. We need to talk briefly about the problem with hormone replacement therapy, because there are some serious risks, and I want to make sure that us women get this information, because the risks are very serious. And there are obviously well-known risks of conventional hormone replacement therapy, such as stroke, blood clots, cancer, and heart disease. And it's not just like where we wait till these are an issue. It's not where, hey, we might have strokes down the road, we might have blood clots or cancer or heart disease from this, but I need my hormones to be balanced right now. Because what it takes for the body to get to that point, to get to where it's having a stroke, to get to where it's having blood clots, to get to where it has cancer or heart disease, there's a lot going wrong in the body in the interim of that time of starting hormone replacement therapy. And the problem too is that with these conventional hormone replacement therapies, the risk of breast cancer or other cancers persists for a decade after stopping. There's some other research, a study of over 100,000 women. They found that the excess risk of breast cancer persists for more than 10 years after stopping hormone replacement therapy. And another study of 12,000 women, 55% of those women, so over half of them who used hormone replacement therapy, developed ovarian cancer. I'm not totally solid on believing that doctors are telling women when they're giving them hormone replacement therapy that they are more than half they as likely to have ovarian cancer. That more than half of every woman that they give that to is going to develop ovarian cancer. Research also found that estrogen-only hormone replacement therapy increases the risk of endometrial cancer. And that's just the tip of the iceberg with all of the risks of hormone replacement therapy. Now, I know that sometimes we feel like that's the only solution. And for those who kind of just want a quick fix and you're willing to take on those risks, that is your choice. But I'm here to tell you that there's a better way. So the better way, the number one thing you need to do is make sure that you are balancing your blood sugar. I can't even count how many people say like, well, we eat clean, well, we eat healthy. And then they're just completely blown away when they start monitoring their blood sugar to see that they have been on a roller coaster with those clean foods, with that whole foods diet and things like that. And so what this is a really powerful tool because your body is different than anybody else's body. And what your body responds to and how it responds to food is going to be different than anybody else's. And so we use continuous glucose monitoring to have solid 24/7 blood sugar data that gives us all of the information on what your body does with each food and drink that you have. Then what we can do with that information is we can even sometimes just make minor adjustments. We might say like, all right, look, that latte, you got to swap that out with this, right? Because it shot your blood sugar to the moon. You felt tired, you felt hangry, you had cravings, you had anxiety, whatever you, after it dropped, right? You were super fatigued after, and then you dropped, and then it's just a mess. And you don't like feeling like that. When you can identify what caused it, you're more motivated to make a change because you know for sure that that's what it was, and you don't like feeling like that. Or you can say, hey, I had this food and I saw my blood sugar do this, and then I started having an increase in my hot flashes. So it's really amazing data that you can access. And even if you just do it for 2 weeks or a month, it'll give you profound data. And sometimes it's even just a matter of making a few switches like, hey, before you had those carbs, we're going to make sure that you had that veggie first, and then you ate your meat after that, and then you did the carbs and stuff. Or, hey, if you really, really insist on having that, that's your perfect time to go for a walk because you're going to see on there how that walk really stabilized your blood sugar. And then boom, you had the same thing you always have, but you did a 10-minute walk and now you don't have those hot flashes, or you slept better or something like that. So I have information on my website. If you go to healthyfamiliesforgod.com, click on resources and then click on continuous glucose monitoring, and you can read more. There's links where you can click on all of these questions about it and things like that too. Once we get blood sugar stable, then we can fix nutritional deficiencies. If we try to fix nutritional deficiencies when the blood sugar is still on a roller coaster, it's going to be helpful, but it's going to be a bit like, trying to scoop water out of a leaky boat too. So obviously it's ideal to work on the blood sugar thing first. But some of the nutritional deficiencies that I find are most important are replenishing minerals, as well as the well-known electrolytes. So for minerals, magnesium is a big one, but be sure to stay tuned on my page and in my newsletters because we're going to talk a little bit more about magnesium and how some forms don't work and things like that. Electrolytes are often needed when our body's been stressed because it doesn't produce or balance electrolytes well enough after we've been stressed for a long time. And that really helps us have more energy right away. So it's a really good way to give ourselves more energy so that we have the energy and motivation to work on the other things. And then vitamin D is another big one as well. And then also a really good B complex is my favorite. My personal favorite is Super B. It's a B complex from Young Living. Because in addition to having really good forms of the B vitamins in good ratios, it also has adaptogenic plant extracts and things that are really good for energy. And so that's another way to just give us that energy we need to keep going with the changes in our lives and things like that. And then activities to build or strengthen muscle. I could list out a bunch, but everybody knows the options out there. Get creative. You've probably maybe seen me do videos of roller skating. I just took that up 4 months ago. I really just wanted something that I would stick with, that I enjoyed, because like many of you, maybe I've done a lot of exercises for many, many years, and I just couldn't stick with it because I didn't enjoy it. So I would really encourage you to find something that you really do enjoy, not to say that it won't be hard. I've bailed so many times on my roller skates in the last 4 months. I wear different gear to help protect this body of mine as it ages. But when you do all of these things that I'm talking about too, and you really support your body this way, falling isn't so bad anymore. It's not like it has to be. Our bodies can still recover well. So, and then also we talked about the home and body care products that contain fragrance and parabens. That is a very big one. So read your labels. Make sure that you are watching those for your cleaner, your shampoos and conditioners, your bar soap, your hand soap, your laundry soap, those dryer sheets, throw them out. Those kinds of things are a really key factor in making sure that you are supporting your hormones. Throw out the candles and the air fresheners and all of that stuff. If you are new to the information that I share, Young Living answers all of those. That's where I get shampoo, conditioner, bar soap, hand soap, cleaner, diffusers for diffusing oils instead of candles, toothpaste, like everything. So I just found it a really easy way to switch all of that out. I remember so many years ago when my kids were little and they were sitting in the cart getting impatient, and I'm at a natural food store and I'm going through label after label after label of all of these products, trying to find something that didn't have fragrance or parabens in it, even at the natural food store. Why are there so many of them that still contain those? So it's a challenge in some ways, but also there are some ways to have a really simple, easy button and get it done. And, you know, I would just encourage you to set out some goals if you are new to all of this, or you know, there's a lot of areas that you want to work on this, or, you know, you can go to the contact me page on my website and set up a time to work with me, and we can schedule out sessions where you are working on certain things at a time and I'm coaching you through that, whatever works for you. Or you can say month 1, I'm going to work on these 3 things, and month 2, you know, and just break it down to something that's very doable for you. And then there's a few things too that I really find beneficial. First of all, there's some overall plant support. These are just oils or serums or things that you apply topically. Progestins Plus is huge. I've never found a product like it. It is a serum that contains plant-based progesterone for our body, but it's in very small amounts because it's combined with some essential oils that help it get into the bloodstream better. So when you're using a progesterone or any kind of like a progesterone cream that you apply topically, if it's in a cream, generally what happens is when you apply that, it sits in the fatty layer underneath your skin, and it's just randomly absorbed into your bloodstream. There's no consistency in it. And so even if you're applying or using it consistently in a regular way, your body's not getting it that way because creams aren't absorbed very well. So this is a serum. I've never found one like it. And the plant extracts in it are just therapeutic value. And so they're tested, they don't carry and bring any heavy metals or anything like that into your bloodstream, like some other topical things might. And so your body's absorbing it very, very well. And so this has helped a ton of women. This is probably one of the products that I get the most testimonies on. And then Lady Scleral is just a blend of some of those oils we hear a lot about for females, like clary sage and geranium and those kinds of things. And so it's just a really strategic combination of those oils. Plus it smells great. So if you need a natural perfume, those both work great for that, as well as giving your body hormone support. One thing I want to mention on those really briefly is that those, well, any of the plant extracts are they work in conjunction with our body's natural homeostasis process. And so they're not going to go against that. So if your body, for instance, some of the oils in Lady Scleral are seen as phytoestrogens, but if your body has too much insulin, or too much estrogen, it's not going to add to that. There's no estrogen in it. And so they work in what your body is needing to help build your body, to help your body build it. So now these are a little bit different. These have played a very big role in me optimizing my hormones, as well as some other people optimizing theirs. And so I want to make sure that we cover these because I've seen just too many good things come out of these to not mention them. And so there's a few different ones, and I want to make sure that we go through the difference and clarify. So as I'm talking, hopefully you're going to hear some bells go off in your head and say, yeah, that's exactly what's going on and what's going to just really fit my body. So cortisol, so a lot of these have to do with, we're going to talk about our DHEA and our pregnenolone. Those are the building block hormones that make all of our estrogen, testosterone, progesterone. Okay, so that's DHEA and pregnenolone. Some of these contain those. Some of these contain herbs and plant extracts that support our body in making those. So this is going to be partly what you know your body needs as I'm describing it, and also partly just what your own preference is going to be. Do you need to test in order before to use these? No, you do not. Can you? Yes, you absolutely can. But it's not necessary because of the doses and things in them. So let's go through cortisol first. Cortisol contains both of what we talked about, the building block hormones, pregnenolone and DHEA, but it also has the addition of herbs and oils that support the body's response to stress. So it counteracts the effects of stress on our body. And we talked a little bit about how stress impacts our hormones and our overall health by making it so that our body's not producing the hormones it needs, by creating too much cortisol and adrenaline and those kinds of things, and by disrupting our blood sugar and things like that. So this is one that I personally use in times of elevated stress or things like that to protect my body from the effects of that stress. Sometimes I'll use it beforehand, and if it just hits me out of nowhere, I will use it too. I also have gone through periods of time where I have just used it regularly in the morning, every morning as soon as I wake up. If you're monitoring your blood sugar and you see that you have a spike every morning, which is very common but not ideal, you can also start implementing that, seeing if taking it at night or in the morning will help prevent that. Endogize is similar to cortisol, but it contains more adaptogenic herbs and nutrients that help counteract the effects of stress, but also supporting overall endocrine support and health, like to the pituitary, the hypothalamus, the thyroid, the ovaries, and all of that. It does not contain pregnenolone like cortisol does, but it does contain DHEA. So if you are testing and you're finding that you're low on DHEA, but you don't want to add in pregnenolone, that might be an option for you. It also has digestive enzymes for intestinal and liver support. So when the stress is affecting our gut and things like that, that's a good one to go for. So which one, of those two Just think of it this way. Cortisol is great for taking proactively before and during times of stress or when our body's been in fight or flight for a long time. And then endogize might be more preferred for just really wide overall hormone support. We've also got Femigen, which is not any of the pregnenolone or DHEA hormones. So if you're like, I just want to do this with plants, I don't want to have any added hormones, this would be the one that you'd go to. But also, this one I personally take every single day because this one has herbs and plant extracts in it that are very thoroughly researched to protect our body from those environmental disruptors. So, I have a clean home. I don't use those products, but when I'm out and about, I'm still being exposed to them. And I have done testing, and I even had high levels of those environmental endocrine disruptors come up on my testing, despite the fact that I have had a clean home free of those for at least 10 years. So that's something to consider that we need to support our body in nowadays. I take 2 every single morning. I take more on days where I know I'm going to be exposed to some endocrine disruptors. For example, the couple of times a year I get my hair done, and things like that. So that is, to me, an essential nowadays. It is just, like I said, plant extracts. It doesn't contain any hormones or anything like that. Powergize is actually another one that I take every single day. Powergize contains the herbs that help our body build the DHEA to build testosterone. Yes, we want that in the later years, very much so, because we cannot build muscle without DHEA. We cannot build muscle without DHEA. When our DHEA is low, we can do all of the things, and that muscle is just not going to show up. So Powergize is a plant-based form of all of those kinds of things. It was specifically created for male hormones, but a lot of us women are using it because it is really amazing, especially in the later years when you need some help building up those or keeping those muscles built up. One of the ingredients in it is Idaho blue spruce oil, which there is a patent on for research that showed that 8 drops a day of it increased testosterone. And so that is one of the ingredients in there, along with some other really amazing ingredients. And then PD8020 is one that a lot of women in the later years of life have come back and told me was a total game changer. So like cortisol, it does contain both pregnenolone and DHEA. However, that's pretty much all that it contains. So it is meant to just be that really firm foundation of those building blocks in those later years when our body needs help with those, because these inevitably decline with age. No matter how well we do, no matter how well we work on our response to stress and our exposure to stressors and things like that, these just inevitably decline with age. So this is one that for some women, if they've maybe taken some of the other ones and they're like, I'm just not seeing the results that I need to see, they'll level up to PD8020 and they'll notice a massive improvement with that. So I hope that helps you kind of decide what would really be just beneficial for your journey on this in those. So we talked about balancing blood sugar. 90% of non-diabetics, that's a typo on my fault, I'm sorry about that, experience glucose spikes. So if you're not diabetic, this is still really important information for you. These are not reflected on random finger pokes. They don't often show up on A1Cs or fasting glucoses that the doctors do on those, annual exams and things like that. These don't show up on that until it gets to the point where the body is basically insulin resistant. We don't want it to get to that point. And so this is where the benefit of monitoring our blood sugar comes in and hopefully preventing it from getting to that point. But when it does get to that point too, it is the most powerful way to reverse that. This is the only way. A lot of times what happens is people are told to check their blood sugar with a finger poke, a glucometer, 2 hours after they eat or drink. But by that time, if you're not a diabetic, your insulin kicked in, and the amount of insulin that it had to kick in, now that's the really important information if we're going to be looking at, how our body's responding to what we're eating and drinking. And so that we don't see, though. We can't see that. And so we need to consider that we want to see how our body's responding. So if we have a glucose spike from something we eat or drink, then our body's going to pump in a bunch of insulin, and then it's going to start going down. This up and down is where all of those symptoms come from. When you start doing this, you start feeling like you don't need a nap, you have energy, you can actually go after those exercise goals because you have the energy, and you don't have sugar cravings. You're not dealing with candida overgrowth and all of those kinds of things. There's just so much. I've had people message me and tell me that when they started balancing their blood sugar, now all of a sudden that arthritis pain that they have went away too, and that lower back pain and all of these kinds of things, because every time your blood sugar spikes, it's inflammation in the body. It also prevents your gut from having good health as well. So this is very huge. So like I said, you can go to my website, healthyfamiliesforgod.com, click on resources, and then click on glucose monitoring to get some more information on that. It's a little monitor. It's a little device. It's a sensor that you apply. It just gets kind of slapped on. There's a little applicator and a little kind of like a wire goes in underneath the skin, and it's just always checking your interstitial fluid for your glucose, and it comes up on your phone. So depending on which one you use, but there are really only 2 of them, and there's a lot of different companies out there, but they all use the same 2 glucose monitors. So that confuses some people. So I thought I'd mention that. I want to speak to those who have already had a full hysterectomy. What can I do in that case? If you have had a full hysterectomy where your ovaries are removed, this is a little bit more work to support your hormone health in this, but it can be done. So the first thing is you need to get a baseline where your hormones are at. I have home lab panels that you can do, and I review those for free if you do them through my website. But also you can have your practitioner do them, and then work on getting really targeted natural hormone therapy. For that, sometimes we need to really add in the straight up hormones that are natural sources of hormones and things like that. But it depends on where you're at with those. But generally speaking, there has to be some more hormone therapy in that, preferably just natural. Other concerns that I see often are, what if I have a history of breast cancer? The first thing I want to say with that, obviously, besides balancing hormones, because that is from imbalanced hormones, years of imbalanced hormones going to check. If you think about it like this, diabetes is from years and years and years, type 2, I should say, insulin resistance, any insulin resistant form of that. So type 2 diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome, gestational diabetes. This is from years and years and years of the blood sugar being out of control, being on this roller coaster. In the same way, when breast cancer develops, this is from years and years and years of the hormones being imbalanced in the body. Just not paying attention, just us not paying attention and doing anything about it. Generally speaking, obviously there are other factors too. But the first thing that I look at also, in addition to really balancing hormones, is iodine, because a lot of times that shows that there's been a long-standing deficiency of iodine. Iodine is blocked. Our absorption of iodine is blocked when we have exposure to chlorine and fluoride, like tap water. And some other things. And so that's something we look at, and just determining how much iodine the body will need to support future health from that, as well as to kind of regain hormone balance and to prevent anything of that sort from coming back. If your thyroid's been removed, the one thing that I would say to that is, yes, you still do need iodine. Your need for iodine doesn't go away when your thyroid goes away, but I would do a urinary iodine loading test. If you can find a practitioner that does that, that'll give you a really solid idea of how much iodine. If you've had your gallbladder removed, this is important to make sure that you're giving your body the supplemental digestive enzymes and ox bile that it's not getting without the gallbladder, and that will help make sure to support your entire digestive, and subsequently your endocrine system as well. So as I mentioned, there are some options for doing some home test panels on my website, as well as talking to your doctor. These are some of the ones that I really feel like get overlooked, but give us a lot of really great information. A lot of times people will send me their labs. Hey, I went to the doctor, I got all these labs, and there's almost nothing in there that tells me anything. The standard set of labs that doctors do are really just tell us if you're dying or not. And so there's really not much in there that actually gives us a picture of what's going on in a way that we can prevent serious disease. So DHEA is something we've talked about a lot, and that is something that I like to see. When DHEA is high, generally this means the body's under stress, but it's holding up by basically sucking out from cortisol and the other hormones and things like that. The problem is when it's high, we don't know at what point or how soon it's going to be until it's done and it crashes. And so I want to pay attention to when it's high just as much as I want to pay attention to when it's low and the body's depleted and done. So when it's high, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything to support DHEA. It actually means you need to support the way that stress is impacting your body. Thyroid full panel, because of how that plays a role in hormone health as well, and not following their parameters, because their parameters, their healthy range is not a sample of healthy people. It's basically an average of everybody, and everybody's not healthy thyroid wise or whatever. And so just to start with, we want to make sure the TSH is between 0.5 and 1.5, and go from there. But obviously there's other ones too that go along with that. And then one thing I will say too, though, is when it comes to thyroid issues, this still has so much to do with blood sugar. So your blood sugar, your insulin, all of that is the foundation for your adrenals, your sex hormones, and your thyroid. So no matter which one of these you're combating, you need to get the blood sugar stable in order to heal and really support any of those. I also really prefer to see a 24-hour cortisol. Sometimes doctors will just do a quick cortisol in the lab or in office. But one cortisol test a day tells us absolutely nothing, really. You can't go off of that. A 24-hour cortisol tells us if the body is having the right bell curve or the curve that it should have. So it should be highest in the morning, and it should just really gradually kind of drop off until evening time. And so we want to see how it's going through the whole day, and then where each one of those it's 4 times a day of a test. So in the morning, early midday, late midday, and evening, bedtime. And we want to see what that looks like. And then if they're in ranges at each of those times, then we can really fine tune where the body needs support as well. So to finish up, here are some additional resources for your journey. Like I said, my Facebook page, I'm always posting a lot of information on there. I just want to get the information out. We also have our Level Life Facebook group to help you learn how to stabilize your blood sugar. People are sharing their experiences with monitoring their own blood sugar and things like that. So it's really been a great group and a collaborative effort on everybody's part, learning together. Also, I post some things on Instagram, on my sarahjo.poff Instagram, that I don't post on Facebook. So it's worth having an Instagram account. Also, if you are not subscribed to my YouTube channel and my email newsletter, those are some other ways to get the information. You don't have to be on social media to get that information, and it'll come to your email inbox. And in my email newsletter, sometimes I put things in there that I don't put on any public pages, because that's a little bit better of a source to put information. And then we talked about Young Living products for detoxing your home, for supporting your hormones naturally. It's a massive part of my life. Every morning when I am taking my supplements, every evening when I'm taking my supplements, every day when I'm using the things that I use in my home and that I put on my body, 90% of those are from Young Living, and it's been phenomenal for my hormone health as well as everything else. And so, you know, maybe you are familiar and you just haven't been able to utilize those much. In my Oily Friends community, we discuss this stuff all of the time. So that's where my education is as far as that kind of stuff goes. If you want more information on that, you can go to my website and then click on Young Living and then Oily Friends, and you'll see what that's all about. We're going to be talking more about menopause and things like that in there, and having some information come up in through that community as well. So I think that's all I have to share with you. Make sure you know that if somebody from our Oily Friends community invited you here and you have seen what you need to grab and you haven't ordered anything yet, ask them for their referral number. If it was me, my referral number is on the bottom of this page, because I want to make sure that you get into the group where we are having that information so you can further your journey. I know so many people come into this and with that starting knowledge and some of the information we share on the public pages, and then get into our community and find out there's just so much more to help you on the journey. So we have that for you. I hope that was helpful for you. Like I said, this will be up on my YouTube channel in the next day or two, so you can access it there and go back if there's anything. If you would like to contact me, you can go to my website and click on the contact me page. There's some links in there to set up virtual appointments with me if that's something you want. But I try to make sure that I get out as much free information as I can for you. So if you haven't checked out my previous classes on hormones, on weight, on adrenals, and things like that, you can go to my YouTube channel and access those anytime for free. So I hope that was helpful for you. We are done. If you have any questions, feel free to email me, contact me through my website. There's a question box on there that you can type in your question, and I'll be happy to help you out. Otherwise, go back to the person who invited you to this too, and they will be a great resource for you as well. I hope that was helpful. I will talk to you guys another time. Until next time, we'll see you later.